I started homeschooling my son when he was in first grade. He was in the public school system and he's on the spectrum, and he just was having a really bad experience in public schools.
As a mom, you feel ashamed because the world makes you feel ashamed.
Yeah.
She's not misbehaving. This is how she's going to react because she doesn't understand or she can't verbalize herself.
I came out here to a birthday party and my daughter changed to like a different person. I just saw her light up, and she is an animal person, and she was just so fresh, happy, and open in this environment. I call it farm magic. There is a bit of forgetting yourself and just wanting to tap an animal.
Yeah.
There's so much motivation around.
She pretty much put this group together because there was a lack of a special needs community in the area. And then Sally having her farm open is something so great.
Love that you just like ran with this. You let it kind of evolve, and you probably maybe felt fear at some point, as any change in life, kind of brings up senses of fear. And
Well, there's a lot of fear also of what if something happens?
Welcome to another episode of Becoming You. I am so excited to have you here today, to be on this farm with me, and to introduce you to speech therapy using equine therapy, right? Merging horses and humans together to help kids of all ages and all capabilities understand themselves and humanity in different ways. My guest today is Julie. She's a speech therapist. I met her through my friend Mary, who will also meet in this episode. Mary and I went to college together, so we've known each other 18 years. We did the math the other day and can't believe it, but here we are. And Mary's daughter, Lily, comes to this ranch, and Julie works with her and helps her kind of enunciate different words and get more comfortable speaking. And I think that that is something so valuable and so important for so many reasons. Communication is huge. And although body language is 80%, there's still that 20% gap of actually saying what's in your head and what's in your heart and articulating it and helping other people understand you and being an active listener and listening to other people as they articulate what's going on inside themselves. So this is a great way for, like I said, kids of all ages to work with horses, work with chickens, work with bunnies, and become more comfortable reading body language and understanding people around them. Behind me are a couple horses that I think are getting ready to have their hooves checked. We have a farrier coming today, so they'll probably be getting new shoes, which is pretty exciting. And it is a bit windy. As some of you may know who tuned into the first episode of this year, recording podcasts outside is a dream of mine. And I think having guests on the show that I can interview in real time and just have them be part of the stage with me is such a gift. It's something I never really thought would happen. I think I'm a little too shy for this sometimes. But recording from home for the last 6 years came kind of naturally after a while. So maybe this will too. But yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys be here. And yeah, I won't give too much away, but stay tuned. This is going to be a good one. You're not going to want to miss it. And if you like this content, like, comment, subscribe. Really means a lot. It helps the channel, helps me know that there's someone out there listening. And if you think anyone can also benefit from this, please share it with them. Share it with a friend, family, acquaintance that you just met. Use it as a way to build your own community and meet new people. I always love pursuing those moments of intuition where you think of someone and something reminds you of them, and then you just reach out and you share it with them. Might not lead anywhere, but it might lead everywhere, and you won't know unless you try. All right, see you soon. We're with the woman who made it all happen, Julie, speech therapist at this farm. Thank you so much for being on the show. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and inviting me into this space. It's a dream come true to be able to record a podcast live like this with a community not only of people, but of women specifically. So thank you for making a bit of my dreams come true too.
You're welcome.
And tell me about yours, like your journey. How did you get here? What led to this
So,
moment?
believe it or not, I'm not an animal person.
Good to know. I would not believe that.
Yeah. So I'm a speech therapist. I started out actually as a singer. I was always a singer when I
Very
was
cool.
younger. I was the kid. There was a rule at my dining room table, no singing at the table.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just like, chew with your mouth closed, no singing at the
Right.
table. But no, I just sang all the time. And I pursued singing up through graduate school, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I heard about voice therapy.
Okay.
And
Tell me
through
more.
a friend
Yeah.
who got a voice problem.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
so I just thought that was the most fascinating thing because I
Yeah.
always loved science. And so I just decided that's what I wanted to do
Mhm.
and ended up pursuing a doctorate in voice along with a master's in speech pathology to really work with professional voice users. That's what
Yeah.
I was, that's what I
Right. Geared
thought I
towards.
wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that and loved it, loved every minute of it, still do. And eventually that took me, I was at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for my graduate internship, and I did some voice, but mainly like a lot of acute care with children. And
Yeah.
there I was part of the LEN program, which is Leadership in Neurodevelopmental Disabilities.
Okay.
And in that program, I actually did one of the most impactful things. They had us meet with a person who is a psychologist and works with parents who found out that their child had hearing loss on day one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And this woman was the hearing child of deaf parents.
Oh my gosh.
So she grew up in this very interesting environment.
Yeah.
And the course that I took one-on-one with her was called grief counseling.
Okay.
And she asked me, why don't you go into your acute care setting, your hospital, all your patients that you're seeing right now in your clinical fellowship,
Mhm.
and I want you to come back and tell me 3 instances where grief is involved and where you're, struggling with that.
Right.
And I went throughout and none of the parents cried at me. Nobody was having grief. And I came back to her and I was like, this is the hardest job I've ever done in my life. I have so many things I want to talk to you about, but none of them are grief.
Right. Okay.
I said, can I just go through my 3 hardest,
Love it.
most difficult clients
Yeah.
from this
Yeah.
week?
And see what her
Because I'm
feedback
really
is.
stuck.
Right.
Can we just shift this conversation and do
Yeah.
something besides group counseling? And she
Right.
said, sure. So I told her my 3 hardest ones, and she said, guess what? Grief, grief, grief.
Really?
And I was like,
Do you remember the 3 artists, what they were?
no, but I remember one of them, the parent was very angry.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. Anger, depression too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them, the parent was very quiet. The parent just wouldn't do it.
Mm.
And I didn't
Yeah.
understand that. They
Yeah.
didn't want to do a test that was vital to figure out, if their
Right.
child had a certain.
Right.
And her counseling was so eye-opening to me. And she taught me counseling strategies and opened my eyes to this whole world of what grief can look like. At that time, I didn't have children.
Okay.
So I didn't understand a lot of that.
Mhm.
But I used that course, every day in my career
Yeah.
from when I had it until now. So I moved on to University of Miami and I did a lot of voice work there. I still work with them and I
Mhm.
love that voice work
Mhm.
with professional voice users, all kinds of voice users.
Right.
And I work with excellent laryngologists in that program. Love it. But I ended up getting pregnant with my second right after my first. And so we moved to Orlando
Mhm.
and I had to leave that dream job. I was
Yeah.
really upset about that. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
Bet.
And we came up here and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, which is really truly the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Noted.
Really truly very,
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. Good to
And
know.
so after I was working some per diem, but after my third child, I had a significant injury.
Okay.
Very, very bad. Like I couldn't really get out of bed. I couldn't stand for longer than 10 minutes without having a lot of pain.
Right.
So COVID happened right around the same exact time, like maybe 2 weeks after COVID started, did I have this nerve injury. And it was really, really hard to get through. And the doctor who helped me the most told me that I should meditate.
Wow.
And I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I need to get better, woman. Like, I do not need to meditate.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? I was at my wit's end. It was terrible.
Right. That's not what you were looking to
I didn't want anybody to tell me to sit there and meditate. Like, and then the meditator people were like, okay, you just need to accept this pain. Like, I want you to look at the pain and wow, pain. I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. But you know what? When I started to do those things is when I started to get better, and it has changed my life.
Really?
Meditation has changed my life. I study mindfulness now. I'm not great at it. I'm not a good meditator. I'm not very mindful a lot of the time, but I try to be, and the practice of it has changed my whole life. So that, started to happen, and eventually people started to ask me to see their kids privately for speech therapy. And when I started to work again with children, I was now a parent, and I was working with the family, and I was entirely different.
Perspectives.
Yes. And I had this like my thing is shift.
Right.
So it was looking at the situation mindfulness, holy, taking all these skills and kind of putting that together. Then I came out here to a birthday party, and my daughter just changed to like a different person. I just saw her light up, and she is an animal person, and she was just so fresh and happy and open in this environment. And I couldn't believe it. And there were kids from 2 years old to 11 years old having the best time without one electronic, and it's just so great.
I feel like it's not even a thought here.
It's
I mean, I realize we have equipment, but like that's not, when you're here with the animals, you're breathing in the fresh farm air, like you're not thinking about what am I missing on
And
TV.
everybody was here for like 4 hours, and the time just passed.
I love
So then
that.
my daughter started taking lessons here because I thought, wow, she just loves it here. And then eventually, Sally asked me to see a client. I said, well, I don't do that. We don't do therapy on farms, and I'm a speech therapist. Did you know that? And yes, would you do, but I did end up seeing a couple of clients on the farm, and I call it farm magic.
Oh, I love
Just
that.
what the kids responded to in this environment. That the calmness, it's a light. There is a bit of forgetting yourself and just wanting to talk with the animals. There's so much motivation around, that kids are motivated to talk for what they want, or to be involved with the group. So then parents had been asking for a social group, and so we did it. We did a social group, but it was wonderful. And the parents that you met today are kind of the second generation of that program, because
Very cool.
The original kids from that program have graduated, and we now do programs that are more in the community where they have to stretch their skills to places they haven't been, and new providers that they haven't seen yet, and bigger groups, busier places. And so we decided to start another group here. And it's just as beautiful as the first one, with a new group of kiddos. But that's sort of how it happened. It just evolved. And we kind of answered the requests of parents who are around. Every time I come here, I'm just so happy.
Right.
So happy, and so happy to work.
So your name's Rose? Did I get that right? Okay.
I'm Rose.
Okay,
Awesome. Miss Rose is
Miss
what the kids call me.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you for being on the show. Very impromptu, but love just being able to like grab people and have a quick chat. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey, maybe in life or here specifically? The podcast, just for your reference, it's called Becoming You. So I like to ask guests about their journey of becoming. And typically there's some pivotal moment that happened in life, right? That shapes the trajectory that your life is on. And that can happen over and over again. But when I say all of that, what comes to mind? What do you want to share?
When you say that, I actually get goosebumps, because now at 43 years old, I feel as though I am finally becoming me.
Wow.
Like since January.
Now I have goosebumps.
Yes. And
Jeez.
Julie has actually been so instrumental in that.
That's
So
awesome.
I moved here from Boston many years ago, moved to Oviedo, and Julie moved in shortly thereafter, like just down the street from me. We met, we're like, oh, we're both SLPs, hi. And I was a medical SLP working in the hospital and in brain injury. But I
Wow.
actually worked in brain injury and
Mhm.
stroke, and that was amazing. But I always felt as though this isn't like 100% my fit.
Yeah.
And then one day I accepted that and I just submitted my resignation letter and said, I have another calling.
Mhm.
And it was to teach kids how to read.
Awesome.
I got some special training called Orton Gillingham.
Okay, cool.
But then I just kind of stopped. And during that time, Julie kind of just kept saying, do you need to do this?
Yeah.
And then I finally put my kids back in school this school year.
Okay.
And then she jumped in and said, do you want to do this farm with me?
Right.
So I came here and I started working with her and her students on the farm. And this has been incredible.
It seems like a very inspiring space. All the women, Julie, my friend Mary, who, you know, she has her daughter going here. I've known her since college. Like, that's how I got plugged in the space. Even you in this moment and the other moms, like, everyone wants to bring the best out of each other, you know, and they see us for who we are. And then they're like, hey, this is what you're going to do.
Yes.
And I really feel like that's been this ripple effect. Like, Mary saw me and was like, hey, come do this. And Julie saw you and brings you here. And now you're doing this. And it's just remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing what women can do, and it's amazing what they will do for their children.
Yes. Yes.
And she created a community.
Mhm.
I remember her telling me that I'm not just doing therapy. She wanted to create community.
Mhm.
And she did that. The moms
Yeah.
are friends.
Right,
They hang
right.
out outside of this.
Right.
When we're doing therapy, they're chatting. And that creates this village
Yes.
of support where,
Yeah.
you know, okay, you have some challenges.
Right. Right.
And they're big challenges, but you
Yeah.
are not alone. And
Yes.
you never will be.
No. And even seeing this today, it is so different from other extracurricular activities that I've seen parents drop their kids off at. Operative word being drop your kids off, right? Like, leave your kids at ballet and go run errands, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. Get your dog groomed and like pick it up later. Like, this is so different from that. The session has ended and the moms are still here chatting. Like, literally your point that this is community building. Like, they want to be here. They want to be here with each other, and they're investing the time, the energy, the resources, you know, to make that happen for themselves and for their children.
Yeah. Yep. And Julie started all of
Yeah,
that.
and Julie started all of it.
She did.
Incredible.
It is.
Any other thoughts?
No,
Okay.
I'll be here for the foreseeable future.
Amazing, Rose. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
popping
much.
in. It's so great to have each of you and all of you together with me today. This is such a rare opportunity for me as a podcast host and for these moms here that are going to introduce themselves in a second to come together. We're basically, they all know each other, but we are getting to know each other in this moment in real time. And that's kind of the premise of how my podcast started, where I just like to meet new people and learn about their journey and share it with other people so that they can hopefully learn something from the collective experience that we have here. So thank you all for being here. Please pick up the mic and introduce yourselves and we can just go around.
Hi,
In whichever
I'm
order
May.
you want. Yeah. Hi, May.
Hi, I'm Memory.
Yeah.
I'm Christina.
I'm Lucy. I'm left-handed.
I'm Yami.
Yami. Okay. Yami, Lucy, Christina. Sorry, I have two mics now. Christina,
Memory.
Memory,
May.
and May. Okay, amazing. May, Memory,
Christina.
Christina, Lucy,
Yami.
Yami. Okay, and I'm Katrina, like the hurricane, if that helps. Yeah.
Now I will remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's fine. Oh, do you always say it at each session?
We learned each other's names
Yeah,
last week.
No, stop. You're talking about being here for years.
Yeah, we haven't.
I love that.
We had to double check.
Right.
Right information.
Okay, good. It's not just me then. So we're good. But I would love to hear kind of your journey as maybe moms or parents with kids with special needs and how you came to this farm. As I mentioned, my friend Mary's daughter comes to this farm, so that's how I'm plugged into this space. But I have no kids of my own. I'm a cool aunt, and that's about it, you know?
Aunts are awesome.
Yeah, we love aunts. But yeah, I just would love to, you know, anyone who wants to jump in, you can talk about something that happened in your past or something directly related with your child and with the farm. wherever, the wind blows you. So I'll let you decide.
I started homeschooling my son when he was in first grade. He was in the public school system and he's on the spectrum, and he just was having a really bad experience in public schools. They were a great school, they just didn't have the resources. So after getting phone call after phone call about every day of the week, we decided to pull him out and start homeschooling him. And then our process through homeschooling has been really intense, just finding the different groups. And we live pretty far away, but we drive over here because it's such a great experience for him. And so for us, it was really hard finding secular groups. A lot of homeschooling seems to be faith-based, which is fine. It's just not our forte. And so that's what I really like about this group and why I immediately wanted to stay here, because everybody is so understanding and inviting. And even in asking Julie to fill out questionnaires for his pediatrician, she even went out of her way to tell me, like, yeah, I want you to know that his behaviors are not problematic. And so I noted that they would be problematic in a school setting, but she's like, I just want you to know that they're not problematic here. We recognize where every kid is at on their journey, and we're here to meet their needs.
So tell me more about that.
She pretty much put this group together because there was a lack of special needs community in the area and a group, and then Sally having her farm open and being able to do this for the kids is something so great. What about me? I started homeschooling during COVID when they did the online schooling.
Okay, yep.
I ended up thriving being at home, and rather than the sensory stimulating building.
Right.
So this was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. So you just stumbled upon it kind of by accident.
It worked. I looked for it.
Okay,
I needed a community, something that would have him be social and interacting with other people, but still do the homeschooling aspect of it.
Right.
And academically, we do good, but he needs the social interactions, and it's really hard to find groups that understand.
Right.
So this was, like I said, a blessing in disguise.
Were the animals a big component for you when you were looking?
For sure.
Okay.
He loves it.
Yeah.
Sensory needs are being met just by playing with the animals.
Right.
Okay, so I joined the group because I've been homeschooling my daughter and my nephew since they've been alive, basically. And the public school setting in our area, they weren't really the best fit for my daughter. She did speech there. She was supposed to get it twice a week. They didn't have enough speech therapists, so they were like, okay, once a week, but it was in a group setting, and her speech was so bad, and kind of still is so bad, but we have wonderful people now, that she needs one-on-one care. And so then I started looking for places where she could interact with the public without being shamed, for lack of a better word, especially like if you look at my daughter, you're like, oh my gosh, what, some kids you can't see their disability. And so you're looking at her like, oh, she looks normal, like why is she even here? And so I like the fact that this group is so accepting of her. She's accepting of everyone that's here. She can learn, she can play, and Miss Julia and the animals make it just an amazing experience. She loves the bunny rabbits, and so she's like, I get to go play with bunnies, and she doesn't even know it's about education. And I think that also gives us as moms a chance to feel like we're accepted for once, because interacting with neurotypical people in the world is very hard sometimes, because you have to explain your kid's behavior over and over again. And like Christina said, with Miss Julia, when my daughter has her therapy sessions, she melts down. And so she's a practitioner, she's used to this, but as a mom, you feel ashamed because the world makes you feel ashamed. And so and so I'm, have this look on my face, and she'll even stop and say, it's okay. She's not misbehaving. This is how she's going to react, because she doesn't understand, or she can't verbalize herself. And it's so comforting going, she does it at her house, and then I get to come here with a group of women, and we get to talk about the fact of, okay, my child is this way, and there's no judgment. No matter how we choose to parent our kids, it's always the best conversation and community here with them. And I think that's the best thing that this farm has to offer.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. This was unexpected. However, it gives us an opportunity to learn more about each other. I'm very new. My first time here was last Thursday.
Oh, wow. Welcome.
And thank you. I'm very shy, so I'm surprised that this is something right. So my son was also in the public school system, very similar to everyone's story. He needed one-on-one, just everything, and being in nature. And I feel that having a village and a group of women that can support each other, and having women that are, it's just a no judgment zone, is what I was searching for, not only for my son, but for myself.
Right.
And throughout my entire life, I did grow up outdoors, playing, interacting, socializing. And once COVID hit, my son didn't really have that opportunity. And so he's been homeschooling for about maybe 6 months to 8 months. And in the process of it, not only has he been able to learn how to read, write, communicate effectively, he did not know how to read by the time I took him out of first grade.
Wow.
And now he's doing all of this because of the one-on-one teaching, having him learn with other children, interacting with animals, because the animals do regulate his nervous system. If he's overstimulated, dysregulated, once he's interacting with the animals or with the therapist, they know how to maneuver every situation. As far as like something that I've learned in the last few years, I did almost pass away from COVID. 1 out of 3 chances of survival. And something changed inside of me, my brain, everything, where I took about 2 to 3 years to say yes to everything. And I started paddleboarding, pickleball, hiking, and I tried my very best to challenge myself to do a lot of nature activities, camping, simply because I wanted my children to understand that it is important to learn how to survive and not have to be forced to be stuck in a building or to work for the corporate world and to lose your identity, and bring out that inner child and just discover and follow your intuition in order for it to guide you where you need to be, and that's where you'll belong.
Yes.
That was beautifully
That
said.
is so beautiful.
That was very beautifully said.
Thank you for sharing that. And intuition is such a big theme, I think, in my life, hopefully in all of your lives, and in this podcast too. So I think just taking the time to self-reflect, listen to yourself, and and pursue that is huge. I find it really interesting. I know, Lucy, you're still up, but I find it really interesting that all of you kind of share this experience of having kids in public school and then not really getting your needs met, not getting your kids' needs met. Right. And then having to kind of pull them out of that environment to give them the one-on-one attention, which is not easy for anyone, let alone like if they need extra support. So that's huge, like full stop. Probably could like double click on all of that to just understand like how that was for all of you, you know, and as moms, like what support are you getting throughout the process too? So I know we don't have time to dig into all of that, but these are like the thoughts that are coming up as I'm hearing your stories.
Similar to everybody else, I have 2, and they were both in public school, and one they were at a charter. One specifically had a lot of like needed a lot of accommodations, like, you know, behavioral intervention, IEP, half the day with a para kind of thing, and a great school, but that model was not conducive with, you know, him. You know, it's overstimulating environment, there's tons of kids, a lot of transitions, and it was just too much. So it's like everyone was doing the best they could. Genuinely, I believe that, but it just wasn't a good fit. So we moved towards homeschooling. So the way we ended up here was we did nature club here at the farm one summer, and she was so like, we just started homeschooling, so I was like, I'm not just sending my kid back there, like I want to know. And she allowed me to, which I don't know if she normally does that. If she doesn't, don't tell her I told you. But you know, she let me go back there with him. I wanted to see how he transitioned and how she let me, you know, be there with him, so I could make sure he, you know, was able to, you know, be okay back there. And then like maybe the next semester, they started advertising they were doing something with Julie with special needs kids, and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta do it.
Even better.
I was like, because I wanted them just to have like the opportunity to have like hands-on skills, working around animals, you know, cleaning up and just, you know.
Right, exactly.
But then I was like, this is like, it's combining everything I want. So that's really how this part of the journey started. And we've kind of, there's been semesters where we don't come, but it's like always been something the boys really enjoy. And for me, the biggest part, like, I'm like, I don't care if you want to come or not, we're going, because not that they've ever complained, but like the community. Because up until that point, just you feel like an island a little bit, where it's like no one really understands what it's like, you know, unless you also have kids with you know, who are neurodiverse, hearing other people's story and understanding you don't even have the worst. Like when you hear other people, I'm like, whoa, you went through a lot. So I'm like, wow, you know, you start to appreciate. And then my kids,
I want them to understand you don't have to be neurotypical. You never will be. So you can have a community of people who are like you. You'll have neurotypical people as well, but to understand you're not an anomaly. You're not the only one. And you can have friends who are like you or different than you. You just have to find your people. And that's what I feel like. I feel like I've kind of found my people.
Yeah,
So.
I love that.
I agree. That's what's so beautiful about being here is exactly that, like them seeing like there are other kids who understand me, who are like me. Like my son has never clicked with people like he's clicked here. He immediately became friends with everybody here. And normally it's really, really hard for him to have connections with other kids, and other kids also just don't have the understanding and patience for him because most neurotypical people are not teaching their kids about neurodivergence. And so it was really hard for him to find connections. So now right off the bat, he's like, this is a place that I can be myself. I'm not ashamed for it. I'm not outcasted for it. So we all have each other that understands. The kids all have each other that understand. It's a really beautiful community.
I did want to share that my daughter, she's about 10 years older than my son. And if I would have been aware of everything, I would have been able to support her as well. A lot of sensory issues. However, with my son, I thought it was sensory, and they did diagnose him with autism, high spectrum, and ADHD. The reason why I also feel that it's important for us to be on this island together is to think outside of the box. And being neurodivergent myself, where I do know that I am very artistic and crafty, I would prefer to learn outside creating, because that's the fastest way the kids learn by socializing than being told to sit down for 8 hours and to read. And although it might work for some people, I do feel that in order to become a leader, an entrepreneur, or just a free thinker, it's important for us to allow ourselves as mothers to be ourselves too, in order for us to teach our kids to survive in this world. Because being a free thinker and being neurodivergent are not usually the number one. Entrepreneurs and business owners are people that are neurodivergent.
I love the freedom that we get to teach them what we want to teach them, how they want to learn, not how they're supposed to learn in a school building. I just had this conversation with my friend about homeschooling versus a brick and mortar public school setting, and how I'm sure if everybody had the chance, they would want to do it this way, because not only do you get quality time with your kids, you get to teach them things that can help them grow and thrive rather than be part of a system.
Some thoughts that are coming to mind, and pulling it back even to just like each of you individually, I'm sure having neurodivergent children has changed your life, especially if you weren't neurodivergent before. And being here, all of you are so welcoming and accepting. Like, I feel super, like I fit in, you know what I mean? Whereas like there's a lot of other communities like that are very focused on aesthetics or whatever the case is, where you feel like, the image, where you feel like, okay, I'm stepping into this sterile environment and I need to mind my P's and Q's and have my filter, you know, and code switch and all these things. Right. 100%, where you're just like, I can't wait to leave. And you're holding so much in, like you can feel your nervous system is activated. And then when you leave, you're like breaking down, even though you're like, that was an hour, like I should be fine, but I'm not, you know? And so I'm curious, like in your experiences prior to being in this situation, you know, with your children, what were you already living this way? Or was it a choice that you kind of like leapt to because of the circumstances?
You mean homeschooling?
Well,
like,
either that or like
personality.
And also and just like pursuing this freedom and this free thinking. Like, was it because, you know, a lot of parents, and I'm not a parent, but like there's an element of living vicariously through your child and like using your child as a way to redo your own childhood, right? So like I could imagine a people pleaser in corporate America who has a neurodivergent kid all of a sudden is like, well, great, like I'm going to throw everything to the wall, which is awesome for them, right? It's probably like freeing and liberating. But I'm just curious, like, did it exist beforehand, or was it this like, you know, method, I guess, outlet? I'm not sure what the word is. And I'm just thinking this in this moment. So if I phrased anything wrong, like please correct me and all of that.
I mean, based on a test that I took, I had a complete whole entire personality change after having my son and having like
I can imagine
a trauma-based raising him and going through the diagnosis and not knowing how to deal with everything. It's definitely shifts your mindset and the way you see everything in the perspective. Like you put yourself in his shoes, the way he's struggling with life, and then you start to realize, hey, I need to be more mindful of everybody around me, not just what's going on in my circle. It changes the way you think about everything, honestly. So it takes a lot of awareness. I'm still working on it.
Courage too, I would say.
I think so, because you have to pretty much advocate for your kid. You have to fight to get services, to get help, to be seen, and not, oh, it's just a stim, oh, it's just being difficult. No, it's something actually wrong. So
well, and accepting how your status in society is going to change too, you know, because there's plenty of parents or spouses or whatever who their spouse even goes through like a, you know, a mental breakdown, for instance, and they want to just like hide it, sweep it under the rug, and act like that didn't just happen, and not go to therapy, not take the steps, and not really be open with what they're going through, which is an impossible burden to bear alone, and yet people will choose that just for the sake of status.
I mean, a lot of marriages with parents raising special needs kids tends to end in divorce because of that strain and the lack of understanding and the help. So I guess that makes sense.
I guess, it was an interesting transition because I didn't like my childhood. Not that my parents weren't. I just didn't like my childhood experience. And then I was like determined, I'm going to do it the traditional way, and I'm going to do it the right way, whatever that means. So my 20s was dedicated to that. I did, like, you know, you're going to get your bachelor's by 24. You start your master's at 23. I got married at 20. You know, you know the trajectory. 22, 23, 24. I had my first child. 26. I had my second child. 27 or 28. I bought a house. And then 29, 30, my marriage collapsed. So my 20s was like, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm doing it the right way. And I didn't fit the model, but it was like, this is how you're supposed to do it. So it was like this cognitive dissonance of like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but it doesn't feel right. It looks good on paper. You got the house, the kids, the dog, like, you know what I mean? All the things you're supposed to do. And I'm like, this does not feel good. And then I hit 29 and I was like, I can't keep doing this. And then it just started to fall apart. That's the time that I was getting you know, my children didn't present in the typical way. Like, you couldn't tell. They only just got diagnoses a couple of years ago. So even though you knew there's something different, they didn't present in the typical way. So it was like, I'd go to the doctors and they're like, no, it could be this. So it was always this like, what is going on? And that's what my 20s felt like. What is going on? And then I think that everything collapsing forced me to lean into authenticity. It forced me, like, I can't pretend anymore. I can't, like, this is not working. And it's like it forced me to be real with who I am. What are my, like, what's my identity? What are my values? Not the societally based values, but like what matters to me. And it was like, oh yeah, you're separated. Perfect time to pull your kids out of school and start homeschooling. Like, I don't know, like, you know, you have no financial support anymore. But this is the great, I don't know what my mind was thinking, but I was like, I just feel like there's something we can do. So it became, in my 30s, had been like, it's been, I'm not gonna lie to you, tumultuous. It's been a lot, because it's like, I'm just out there, like, intuition wise, sensing my way around and finding community, and, you know, realizing that way, my brain was very much, this is the way you do it. Realizing that says who. You know,
and we're just conditioned for that anyway, you know. And I feel like no matter what life path you're on, you have these shoulds in the back of your mind or the front of your mind where you're like paralyzed to it, right? And you think like everyone's judging you, and it's really this inner critic, and whether it's like your parents' voice or society's voice or both, like, you're the one who's perpetuating it by feeding into that, because chances are you're not hearing it from anyone else on a daily basis, but your subconscious is reminding you. The roommate.
For me, I had a really hard childhood. I grew up in and out of the foster system. My inner critic was always like what I identified as just my inner voice. Like, that is just me. I didn't even have that understanding for a long time that, like, this is not really myself. This is other people who have spoken to me this way. So it was in my 20s that I started unpacking that. When I was 21, I had a stillborn, and now I'm 34. So my now almost 9-year-old, he was also born 3 months early, and I was in an abusive relationship. So it was a lot. So between the son that I lost and how triggered I was with my son being in the NICU, and then leaving an abusive partner when my son was a year old, there were so many things that I was projecting onto my son of like, this is the life that I want to give you. And I had such a stubborn defiance with it too. Like, this is exactly what our life is going to be like. I had it all really envisioned in my head. And the way that I thought I was going to parent is not at all how I parent. So I really did have to, even now to this day, I have to let go continuously of so much. Like, what am I holding on to so hard? and how much pressure is that putting on people around me and myself. So like I want myself and everybody, especially my child, to thrive in authenticity. So when I'm putting all this pressure on him of this is what our life is supposed to look like, he's actually like crumbling under that. You know, it's really suffocating for him, and I want him to prosper and be his full self. And even just like last year was feeling like I wasn't doing enough for homeschooling. So how many things can we add on? And all these things have this importance, and they're really important to him. And I see that he benefits from it, but our routine is so heavy and he cannot handle it. He's getting burnt out. So what can I let go of? And so it's just constantly been that process. And throughout my life, and especially parenting, it's really been seeing like, what am I holding on to? What do I need to let go? And every time it feels like I'm dying, it really is like I've had so many just complete and utter breakdowns of like, I can't do this. I was not cut out for this. And I'm like, but I'm here and I have to figure out how to move forward. And so now I really have built this trust with myself and with the universe that even when things fall apart, it's because the next phase is going to be so much better. It's opening up the doorway for what's going to come. And I can't even imagine what that looks like. So I have to like wipe the slate clean.
That's
Mentality.
amazing. That was
Mentality.
great. Yeah.
The point of this us getting together, was it to talk about the mindfulness retreat with Wendy, or what?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, May. So Julie and I have been chatting about that, and Wendy is actually on board with this too, but we're thinking of creating a podcast for them to be a resource for all of you and women like around the world, really, because we want to make it accessible for everyone. So even though this episode is like airing on Becoming You, we're going to have an entire kind of spin-off series.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you asked that. And then we'll also be having a retreat, I think, in August too. So there'll be another one. Yeah.
I love this.
And we're gonna make a virtual component so it can be hybrid if people can't attend in person. So
I didn't realize we were doing this today.
Yeah, that's like
and
a
I just
surprise.
wore the
You're wearing the bracelet.
It's from the retreat. That's awesome.
Is the time up already?
Yeah.
Oh, that's quick. I just have one final question. And Memory, I'm sorry. I know you didn't get to chat too much.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay. Do you have any like thoughts before I ask my final question?
No.
Okay. Not trying to put you on the spot.
No.
Christina, you had mentioned like neurotypical parents basically aren't educating their kids on like how to adapt and how to even like recognize some of the behaviors and be okay accepting, right? Like all the things. So that kind of sparked this question, like, what do you guys think neurotypical parents or parents who maybe their kids aren't like presenting that way yet, but then it could be an issue for them down the road? What do you find, like, what advice or what would you want them to know? And how would they have that conversation?
You can understand why moms are in the position where they have to be hyper vigilant and understand why we're always like,
on edge.
So I think with neurotypical parents and neurotypical kids, they just don't have to watch them, and so they are not stepping in these moments where it would be great teaching moments for them of like, you know, this is how we can recognize and help out and like, you know, grow our community and look out for each other. And so it's just kind of like, cool, my kids doing their thing, I know that they're good, but then that puts so much pressure on us. We always have to be watching and aware, and then I end up teaching so many other people's kids just because they're not teaching their own. And I know that it's not like they're not choosing not to teach their kids. It just it's not a thought that comes to their mind. And so I just wish it was more of a thing of like, you know, these are all the different kinds of people you're going to encounter, and how can you be a good friend and a good support system to them and help them, and you know, inclusivity, like, you know, we don't want to exclude anybody. How can you bring them into this group? Like paying attention, is somebody feeling outcasted or looking outcasted or not being asked to participate? How can you bring them in?
And I will say, I feel like all of you lead by example, because I felt so welcomed and brought right in. And, you know, and obviously you're setting that example for your kids, your nieces, nephews, everyone in your life. And for me now too, like, gives me like a little piece to hang on to hopefully implement that in a new way in my life. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, of course. This is awesome.
And you did immediately fit in.
I'm so glad. Thank you. That means a lot. Look who I have. So Mary, my friend of 18 years, as I mentioned, thank you so much for just having me, you know, in this space. This is like a community that you've been building, you know, as a mom and as a woman and as a parent of a child who, you know, uses this farm for help with your daughter's speech. You know, I know you use it specifically. I kind of am more familiar with your case, let's say, than some of the other moms and how their kids are here. But I'm really fascinated with using animals for just help in life. And I think it helps us like regulate our nervous systems and different things. So like with your daughter, it's like focused around speech therapy. For some of these other moms, they were sharing how it helps them socialize with other kids and things like that. So that's like been a big thing for them, and finding a way to survive outside of this world that feels like very neurotypical, right? So a lot of things in life are geared towards that, where you just kind of have like, I don't know. I mean, and this is, I'm just paraphrasing what some of the moms have said. But where society is like conditioned to all of us to act a certain way, to show up a certain way, to find fault if people aren't complying with that, right? And when they bring their kids here, Julie just, is like, hey, this is normal behavior. It's not problematic, and it's normal for them. So that was kind of an underlying theme to all of it. And then we peeled a layer back and got to understand like each of the moms' journeys, basically prior to having a child with special needs versus post, and how that may have changed their life perspective, leaning into being courageous and doing things differently and not people pleasing and defaulting to all of these like normal things. So
yeah, so I would like to share that, as a mom of 4, from ages 2 through 13, um, I've kind of had so many different parenting experiences with each child having their own different need per se. And in particular, one of my children had a lot of medical needs. And even going to a playground as a new mom, it was almost such a lonely experience, because all these moms could like sit down at the bench and just like scroll on their phone and relax, and like mine is trying to run in the street and it's like it was a really lonely experience. Not necessarily having that atypical child and parenting experience. And so now with my third, I'm in a completely different place, and finding Julie, who really, she has such a genuine and nurturing interaction with each of the kids that she works with. And it really does feel like finding a needle in the haystack, because a lot of times over the years, it's been like, okay, next, and like with providers, you know what I mean? And having someone like Julie come in and just reach you guys exactly where you're at, whatever messy place you are. And I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
And so when we started with her, my one daughter had less than 17 words at 3 years old.
Wow.
And hadn't had a speech issue with any of my other children in the past. So this was really my first experience with this. And she really blossomed, not only just finding Julie and working with her, but coming to the farm. And it's such a unique experience of having this really, just a really special place that's safe, and everyone can kind of have such a hands-on experience that it's really helped progress her speech. So it wasn't just like a basic speech therapy, let's sit here for 30 minutes. It was hands-on, and Julie just kind of lets them lead where they want to go, what animal they want to interact with. And it's really made a huge difference. And then finding, furthermore, Julie not only does that and all her other little groups and stuff that she interacts with, but also having a passion for mindfulness and parenting. And she's kind of created this community of moms who are all in the trenches, and being able to come together in such a supportive way and learn new techniques.
Right.
With her retreat with Wendy, and just really passionate about helping and supporting other moms and parents in general.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And I have to commend you for being able to connect all these dots. Like from a supportive community perspective, right? So you've attended the retreat, you found the farm, you introduced me to Julie so we could do this podcast today. Wendy, wants to create her own show, basically. So we're going to have a spin-off series on this exact topic that Wendy and Julie are going to be kind of running. And that's going to iterate and evolve. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And then we'll have a retreat that will be hybrid and people can join virtually. So it's more accessible. But you can just tell there's such a thirst and a hunger for that level of support here. And I love that you're, to me, spearheading, making it make sense, right? Like you're pulling these connection pieces together. The meditation too, you just like literally shared with all the moms, hey, come do the meditation with us. And these are huge like ways to make these things like not necessarily make sense, but like find a way to cope through it, and I love that I get to be your friend and experience this because I think you're outstanding.
Yep. You've had to hear me talk so many times about all of this. And so it only feels right to be like, Katrina, you have to come to the farm.
Right.
You have to meet these people. You are going to love them. Hey, you have to see the Center Street Retreat Center and you have to, like, you got to. Like, I already knew that this was something that, one, I wanted you to be a part of in some way. And two, that ultimately it really, like I feel really called to share that with you because you have skills in a podcast. And this is also like you appreciate the journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes. And you've been with me for now 18 years of my journey. You've seen it all. You've heard me say like my biggest mantra right now in life is full of mud. Like it really is. Like we are all just trudging along and doing the very best we can. And that's where, if you know the analogy of the lotus flower, like there's no lotus without mud. Mm-hmm. And so we have to trudge through life, make it the best we can. Mm-hmm. And that's where, one, I want to share that with you. You hear me live by that every day. Absolutely, and then also with all of these
literally
moms,
your necklaces. I love it.
But like with all of these moms, like this is the community. Like we are supporting each other as we trudge through the mud. Like that is it. Right. And we're all doing the very best we can. Yeah. And that support and like a place of belonging. Like I look back at like how lonely I was as a new mom and with a child who wasn't atypical. And just different various challenges over the years. And we all have them. We're not unique to it.
No.
So, but at the same time, like finding people who embrace that and are living it too and can understand you and reach a hand, and empathy and support is all that, this is really what it's become about.
Right. And what's interesting to me is like, it doesn't feel cliquey. Like I don't have kids, so I'm not a mom, right? And I don't have special needs kids because I don't have kids in the first place. And yet I still feel really welcome here. And it feels like a space where everyone's willing to kind of lead by example so that I now have a template in my own life. How can I show up better, be more accepting, understanding, empathetic, and even with you saying like you wanted me to be here, that alone is like the same kind of experience I had with these other moms. Like they all are like, yeah, come be here. And I'm thinking like, why would anyone think of me to be here? Like I don't fit in with the purpose of the farm. And yet it's as inclusive as you could imagine. And I think there's still that yearning too, to have people understand who maybe wouldn't understand on their own. And sometimes just being here is like the way to do that, understanding by immersion.
Well, I think the other reason I feel like so called to share this with you is like you and I have been with each other through it all. Like when we thought we hadn't figured out at 18, showing up at college, like literally, you know what I mean? Literally, kind of embarrassing to think about. Yeah. But like like just the journey that we have, witnessed each other walk as we try to figure life out. And like even now, do I have it figured out? Absolutely not. Do I think I do? Absolutely. But it's just that journey and witnessing it for each other.
Yes.
And like giving each other the space and respect and support and love for exactly where each of us have been at a different point in time is really and that openness to try to understand the other person. And even if we don't, do we sit there and listen? Absolutely, and support. And that is also what I've always felt at this farm and with Julie and these other moms. That's how they've all been. And it's such a unique experience. And I feel energized and excited to try to share that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you for
Thank
being
you
on
for
the
coming.
show. I know.
Thank you for coming and
Happy
agreeing
be
to do
here.
this.
No,
So,
anytime. It's really like my honor, privilege, and just such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying everything you said.
Absolutely.
We need happier people in the world, in life, right? And I love that you just like ran with this. You let it kind of evolve, and you probably maybe felt fear at some point, you know, as any change in life, you know, kind of brings up senses of fear. And
well, there's a lot of fear also of what if something happens? What if a kid gets hurt?
Yeah.
Like, it's so much safer in a therapy room.
Right.
And I had to sit with that.
Okay, yeah.
I did really have to sit with that. And I talked to Sally about that.
Okay.
And I talked to my therapist about that.
Yeah.
And
what was everyone's thoughts?
So
because also you're not an animal person, right? So maybe that was
I'm
part
not
of
an
it.
animal person.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, I don't know if we should do it.
I love these animals. I have so much respect, and I have learned so much about. I've learned so much about communication. So I'll answer your first question, and then I'll talk about that. But what I decided was that I'm going to do everything in my power, and this was the feedback. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it as safe as possible and accept that little bit of risk because I know in my heart that it's good for myself and the kids.
Right.
And there is an inherent risk that goes along with being in a different environment where life might happen, you know? And so we signed waivers, and, you know, Sally has every insurance in the book, but there is always that little bit of inherent risk, and I think that's a fear that I had.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's different,
right?
That's a fear that I have, you know. But honestly, that's not that scary because you see it working,
right?
You know, like you're just watching it work. There's no doubt.
No, and from speaking with the moms, and thank you for introducing me to them, they're such delightful people, and they give you all the credit for building the community here, you know, for the moms and for the kids. And they just really couldn't say enough good things about the work that you're doing here and the environment that you provide for the children, especially like judgment free and letting them be normal and be accepted. And basically like what's normal for them may be like shunned by society, but that's because society is marching to orders that don't really work for anyone at the end of the day, you know? So it's just really interesting and inspiring to hear their perspective on everything and just how you fit into their lives and kind of made this a reality for some people.
Yeah, I feel that it's really a privilege that they allow me, you know, into their lives, and that they want to be part of a community that I'm a part of. And I think what the principles that we're working by, Rose and myself, are mindfulness-based therapy, which is paying attention in the moment on purpose without judgment, John Kabat-Zinn's definition. And that non-judgment piece is really difficult, but I practice that every day when we're here. And that way we can describe without judging it. And so the behavior is not good or bad, but it is what it is, and it has the impact that it has. And so we can let it be there and study it, you know, and a lot of times it can relax.
Right.
When we do that. Just like I learned originally with pain.
Interesting. Okay.
That when
like
I actually did
it.
Look at it,
Right.
and it's not so much accepting it in terms of, it is accepting it, that is the word, but it's not so much I'm just going to let it be here forever, but I'm going to acknowledge that it's there, and I'm going to look right at it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Yeah.
With the pain at the beginning. And I think sometimes we have a hard time looking right at whatever's most of.
Right.
But that's what we try to practice here.
Yeah.
And then loving, truly respecting this human being, wonderful, exactly how they are, person, and helping them find the next step that's gonna
benefit them and all of us.
Right, exactly. No, it's amazing. Thank you. That's like a great testament. And I will say there was a plug for the retreat that you and Wendy did. They asked about it and they were like, hey, are you doing this podcast with them? And I was like, actually, there will be a spin-off series, so this is like the debut episode, but Julie and Wendy are going to have like their own show and all that. So I just love that you're kind of like running with this and creating resources that are accessible, whether people are being to the farm or they can tune in, virtually. Where does all of that energy and charisma come from, and where do you see it going in the future?
I don't know, like your shirt, I told you, becoming you, right? That's what I feel like the meditation has done for me. And my experience of kind of being so down and out, but physically, like, just kind of hitting a rock bottom of being so stuck. And as I re-entered through a new lens of mindfulness, what I realized was the more I listened to who I am, a lot of the things that I used to be afraid of, like I always felt in meetings as a kid because I think I was a pottage, right? Like I won't say anything about my daughter. Yeah, I was a lot, people. I was a lot. And I wanted to be in shows and I wanted to sing. And I just am an extrovert.
Right.
But I really closed up a lot and worried a lot about being annoying to people. Well past when I probably was. And I just wanted to be right. I wanted to do a really good job and, prove that I could do it. And I was really smart. I got a lot of, overachiever type things, but it wasn't necessarily always myself. It was trying to meet some kind of a criteria. And what this process has been is really trusting that if I just be myself, truly myself, and do what I really feel the next right thing is, that's what this has been.
Yeah.
And it's no pushing, it's no reaching, it's really just listening and being myself, like stepping into who I am.
Right. Beautifully said. Honestly, that's like the best way to end this, I feel like. But yeah, it's so true. Like, thank you for just who you are as a person and for listening to yourself, following your intuition and making this a reality and letting who you are be enough to attract, the right people and the right energy and all of that, and not chasing it or feeling like you have to prove something, because that's an example in and of itself that so many of us can, learn from and follow. So
and to that end, I really want to talk about also Sally. Did
yeah.
you get to talk with Sally? Or
we chatted, but not on this. She wants to do her own episode.
Yeah, okay. Well, so you'll have to stay tuned for that because Sally is an amazing person. And I feel, the moms might have kind of pointed to me as a center for our community, but I also point to Sally.
Yeah.
That she opens this place
right
to all people. A lot of farms are specifically not inclusive because it's really hard to be if you have a horse that's jumping and it can't be distracted. And
yes.
Farms are expensive and you have to have a certain amount of money to keep the horses fed. Like it's not from a bad place. It's just and so Sally have made it her mission to include and respect and to teach the care and connection to the animals. And it's through that I've learned and that I've been able to kind of partner with her in community.
Yeah.
Rather than being the center of a community, I feel like we're just like in it.
Right.
With these other people.
Yeah.
So she's really inspiring. I hope you get to
have a chat with her.
Yeah, to really focus on her.
Yeah.
She's just
From the couple times I've been able to speak with her, I already feel that glow, and I would love to have her on the show. So thank you.
And the one other thing that I was going to say about communication with animals, for a stage.
Right.
One of the reasons why it's been so good here is because they communicate very well without words.
Yeah.
And I think it helps to teach children what do you think they need. Should we get to learn what other people might need and empathy?
Right.
But also the difference between communication and language.
Interesting.
And how we can do both.
Yes.
So we use horses all the time as examples of that, and they just show they have a very consistent way of showing their emotions through their body language. So it's like a whole curriculum right there.
And at the top of this episode, I mentioned that our communication is like 80% body language, 20% verbal. Horses, it's 100% body language, right? Like they're not using words to speak. So I think that's awesome. And I'm glad that you kind of brought us home with that. That's
so
awesome.
we'll kind of open and close with the same thing, but I do think that's part of the reason why we can't just learn so much.
Exactly. Amazing, Julie. Thank you so much for being on the show and making this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, I haven't stopped thinking about the farm since I got back from the farm. And even that day, I wanted to immediately hop on the camera and say all the things, right? And yet it's been several days at this point, and I'm still processing what the mom shared with me, what Julie taught me, what Mary reflected back to me, and what Rose shared as a new provider in this space, working with these moms and with these kids. The entire experience was phenomenal. Let them not only share the experiences that their children are having, but how does that reflect back on them? If we peel layers back, who have they been becoming along the journey, right? So much of their lives is centered around the kids because the kids need all of that attention. And at the same time, the moms are human beings. The providers are human beings. And they didn't just show up here overnight. Something happened that led to this moment. And I really wanted to understand not only how self-aware they were, but what does that journey look like? And is there room to reflect back on it, right? To see how are they showing up and to ask them what impact have their kids had on them as people. And their answers were astounding. I don't think we even dug into it enough. And I'm so excited that we're going to have essentially a spin-off series that's a brand new podcast series offering support to this community of moms, but making it nationwide and maybe even globally accessible. I think it's so important that people, moms, kids, don't feel alone in the struggles that they have in life, and to not play this comparison game, but to just find a way to kind of cope and move through it, accept the circumstances, whatever they may be, and try to make the most of it. And sometimes that's easier said than done, right? And sometimes those words sound good in theory, but applied to a certain scenario, they may feel like they don't apply at all. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to just expand and explore how can we show up differently and better for one another. This episode and this experience was so special. I know we're going to keep offering resources and support to this community, and it really feels like we're just getting started. And without this podcast, none of this would have ever happened. See you on the next episode of Becoming You with the Connector Queen.
You are my most important listener, and I can't thank you enough for spending your time with me. If this content resonates with you, then hit subscribe. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube by following @ConnectorQueen. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again on the next episode of Becoming You.